Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just looking to see if anyone else is one who's coming. I think we'll move to Peter's question next. Peter.
Thank you, Convener, and I will be concise, unlike Mr Stevenson. My question is specifically for Mr Brown, because you have said, Mr Brown, in your submission that social workers should be specifically exempt from the WPL. Along the same lines, of course, NHS sites are already being going to be exempted. So, can you explain why you think that your workforce should be specifically exempted? And have you a concern that if this was an exemption, it should be a national exemption, or should it be allowed? Should individual local authorities have that decision to make for your workers?
Thank you. I think, as has already been expressed a number of times, because local authorities are under so much pressure, and I guess a requirement to look at wherever they can make savings because the budgets are so tight, that we do feel it should be expressed as an amendment. And with all the respect in the world to the members that Helen and David represent, I guess we were making an argument that we feel that social workers have a particular and peculiar role of being very kind of actively out in their cars all day, visiting people at home, trying to get people out of hospitals and back to other care facilities, and doing difficult work dealing with adult and child protection, minimising public harms, carrying confidential and sensitive material, and dealing with people and interacting with people in difficult circumstances. And so we've had a lot of members being very vocal and vociferous about the requirement to access their cars, use their cars, that therapeutic work goes on in their cars as well. So, we're kind of taking that on board, and I guess we think that that exemption needs to be thought about because of that, those particular statutory responsibilities. Whereas I guess a blanket kind of saying NHS, I think that's got to depend on, does that person have good transport links to their work? Are they a shift worker? And are they just based at one site when they're there all day? Is transporting and is working with the people they work with part of what they do with their car? So that doesn't seem to have been articulated in any way. So while we're not as clearly coming out against this, we're kind of saying that we're supportive of modal shifts. We're kind of saying that we acknowledge the impact of pollution, particularly on the poor, and some of those other submissions, and we don't have as clear a position. We do feel that our members are very strong on this, and we do think there should be an amendment for social workers.
You obviously think that should be a national thing, that should be decided nationally rather than by individual local authorities.
Well, I think it's a very complex picture, and local authorities are using a mixture. As I say, there might be pool cars, or there's the odd electric car, or some would say we'll give you access to the Enterprise Car Club, and there's all these kind of mixtures of things. But at the end of the day, there's not a robust. Our members are telling us there's not robust transport options in place to let them replace this constant dependence on their own private vehicles, which they're using for work purposes, because they might need to go out. For example, if I as a mental health officer was to go and get a warrant to get somebody to hospital who unfortunately was unable to look after themselves, was a significant risk to themselves or others, I would have to go and visit them several times that day before I was to go to a Justice of the Peace or a sheriff and get that warrant. It's reactive work. It's got to be there and then. We've got